Of all the great pursuits that you can choose, poetry is simultaneously the most underappreciated and the most vital. Everybody thinks that poetry doesn't have a value or a worth until somebody dies. What do they need? They need a poet. Somebody falls in love. How do you express that? You need a poet. All the great yardsticks of our life, sometimes the only way to explain those things is through poetry. And so for me, I think poetry has always been the most beautiful and important language that there is. I actually never intended on anybody ever reading any of the things that I ever wrote. My lovely wife, Sarah, is to blame for even sharing it on the internet in the first place.
I remember he would show me poems and I would feel so much and I told him, you know, the world needs this. So many people could feel heard and understood if they were able to read these.
And that was the first time I ever shared it. And even that snowball, it was funny how slowly it started rolling. And then it just took off. And then next thing you knew, there was a following there.
It unlocked the world for us.
Sarah and I have a long and winding road that leads to each other. She actually hired me to take photographs of her and her kids. And so we met on a photo shoot. And then a couple of months later, I got asked to photograph a wedding. And I knew she was a very talented photographer.
I had shot one wedding before that without him. I had said I would never do that again. In fact, when he asked me to, I was like, I don't really want to do that. But as soon as we did it together, it was a totally different world.
Our energies matched so well.
It really helped unlock other people, you know, they were able to be themselves. I knew that that was what I needed to do.
That night, we made a company. And so we started doing local weddings, and I think our first year we maybe had 3. And then the next year, I think we had 6.
And then it just snowballed into the majority were out of state and we were flying all over the world.
It was undeniable. I mean, it was like we were supposed to work together and we were supposed to be in each other's lives.
We were best friends for 6 or 7 years, working together and shooting weddings all over the world.
You know, like all winding roads, there was twists and turns.
You know, maybe somewhere we knew that we were the one for each other.
We ended up on the same road together. That was when everything unlocked.
Looking back now, it was probably the moment I met him. I knew deep down.
It was nice when roads finally became one road. Right now, I think we probably photograph 80 to 85% same-sex weddings. Of all the testimonies you can write, of all the stuff you can put on your website about how great you are as a photographer, none of that stuff matters to Sarah and I. What matters to us is that people come to us and say they feel safe and appreciated and honored.
When we show a couple a photo of them, seeing them light up, especially same-sex couples who have been through so much and they have fought to even be able to say that they love each other, to show them how beautiful that love is and to show their families who maybe weren't supportive. Like, look at how beautiful this love is. You can't deny this connection and this light that they have.
Sarah and I we've always thought that no matter how dark it gets, there is light. Through our photography and through the writing and honestly just the way that we really, really try hard to live our lives, we are always chasing that. But even more than chasing, we're trying to share it and show other people that it's there. That's why that company name, it came out of a poem I wrote. It was the last line of a poem I wrote.
Well, we were shooting a wedding at Holland Lake Lodge and we left that wedding. We're driving out on that long road to the highway.
I looked through the woods and we could see this gorgeous sunset and we slammed on the brakes and just sprinted through the forest with our cameras.
It was just the most beautiful light coming through.
So it started quite literal.
We got home from that wedding and Tyler wrote a poem, like he does, that just captured our entire motto for our company and really our life.
It does require the verb, it requires the chase. A lot of people expect it just to show up for them, and then when it doesn't, the darkness just takes over everything. And so I think that's our motto and our reminder is, you have to do the work, you have to chase it. So I do believe the universe puts you where you're supposed to be and with the people you're supposed to be with. Her whole background in college was, early childhood development and special education with a focus on autism.
Because it was pretty soon after I stopped teaching that I met him, and so I was still kind of in that mode.
And so she kind of gently said, hey, have you ever thought, have you ever done an autism screener? She did one with me, and she was the baseline, and she scored exceedingly low. And then when she got mine back, I think I was 1 point off of the highest you could possibly be. That was kind of the wake-up call. Calling it a spectrum, I think, is the most appropriately named thing. For my autism, I always surprise people because in a lot of ways I am very high functioning. But at the time I just thought I was weird and I didn't get it, and teachers thought I was weird. Especially back then, and especially in Montana, there just wasn't a lot of tools and there wasn't a lot of information available.
It has opened up and changed so much that people are more understanding.
These things that I'm calling broken, they're not broken, they're just different. I didn't pursue the official diagnosis until probably 3 years later. I've never once thought about embarrassment or shame or hiding it or anything. I put it onto my biography and I talk about it a lot. And the moment that happened, it was like the floodgates opened and I had parents and people all over the world writing me.
We've met so many people who are on the spectrum and they've been able to tell us their stories.
It puts me in a really unique kind of place where I can offer my perspective and offer up hope and light for them to chase, because it is there. It doesn't have to be a handcuff. It can, it can be a skeleton key that unlocks a lot of things.
We're all struggling in some way. If we can celebrate the ways that people get through those struggles, we're all better off for it.
Who knows what new art is going to come and what new connection and what new beauty, and I think that's such a cool thing. Living my life and seeing the world through an empathetic eye, that's always been the daily practice. When they asked the Dalai Lama, how long have you been practicing Buddhism as a religion? And the Dalai Lama's answer was that's not my religion. My religion is kindness. When I heard that, nothing ever made as much sense as that. We were just coming back from Scotland, and I saw this man sitting with his wife, and she was very clearly deep into Alzheimer's or dementia. I was watching him interact with her and how gentle and kind he was being to his wife, even though she kept forgetting who he was. If there's ever going to be one thing that I want to be remembered for, it would just be for that, for tenderness and for being gentle with people. I think that's very contrary to a lot of the climate right now, but that would be it. And if that's through poetry or through photography or through whatever it is I make, fine, but more I would just hope that people would remember me as a person who is tender and gentle and kind. That's all I care about. I think if that's what you're remembered for, you did it right.